I'm in my zone.
Hey, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and usually when I'm posting a counter review, it's going to be in direct response to a very specific review, which in most cases is usually an IGN review that I strongly disagreed with, but in this case, it's going to be a more broader overlook at some of the negativity that has surrounded this game before it's even had a chance to hit the US store shelves. I'm going to discuss two English reviews that have been posted so far that I could find, and one was published today, the other one was published 4 days ago. I'll put the links for both of those in the description, and I always advise people to do their own research, compare and contrast reviews to make sure that you're crystal clear with what to expect before purchasing the game. However, when it comes to JRPGs, they always get hammered on harder than any other type of game when it comes to reviews. There are rare exceptions like Ni no Kuni or the Disgaea series, but anytime a game like Atelier Aisha, Hyperdimension Neptunia, or Mugen Souls releases, they get far worse reviews than what they actually deserve. And I'd say as much as half of the negative reviews that get posted are done by people who just don't like JRPGs in general, or they don't have the patience to play through that type of a game. So what ends up happening is they get overly critical of the downsides, and because the story or anime may not be up their alley, they just throw the entire game under the bus. And I'll admit it's very easy to pick on games like this. They obviously don't have the same budget as a Dragon's Dogma or a Mass Effect title, so if you go into most JRPGs looking to replicate the experience of some juggernaut role-playing game, then it would be very easy to be disappointed. Now that's not to say that a JRPG can't be bad. There's plenty of awful role-playing games and JRPGs lined across the store shelves. If you watch my top 40 role-playing game countdown, there were several titles in that list that were scored really high by Metacritic, but I personally just didn't find that enjoyable. And role-playing games are my favorite genre that I've been playing since I was little, and I'm not afraid to call out a bad one when I see it. Wizardry Labyrinth of Lost Souls is one of the worst games that I've ever played, and I spent most of that review just bashing that game, and that's a JRPG. So with all that said, I've been reading some of these comments that have been posted on my Time and Eternity videos from my own subscribers that were like, hey, this game's getting really bad reviews, but yet you seem to be enjoying it so far, so what's up with that? And I kind of felt like I needed to do this video before I posted my own review. So far, yes, I have been enjoying this game, but I'm noticing one downside with it that may cripple the end result. I won't know until I get further into the game, more towards the end, so that I can do the review, but the lack of enemy variety could be a big issue that I haven't played enough to determine just yet. But the first review I want to discuss was posted to news10.net by Game Guys, and I'm going to read exactly what was written in reference to this game. He said perhaps part of the reason it tends to drag and get lost within itself is due to the horrible pacing of conversations within the game's story segments. Making things sometimes worse, the voice work gets lost as it competes with the game's too loud background music from time to time. I absolutely, positively, 110% highly disagree with everything that he wrote right there. For starters, the story in this one is one of its shining points, and it's actually really good, which I'm going to discuss that more in my own review. But second, he complains that the voice work gets lost in the music. Now, how boneheaded is it to complain about something like that when you can spend 5 seconds going into the options menu and turning down the music and turning up the voiceovers? I did tweak mine a little bit when I first started playing right out of the gate, but even on its default settings, it's not that bad at all, and it certainly doesn't make any sense to discuss something like that in review as being a fault with the game simply because you didn't want to go into the options. And this goes back to what I said before. A lot of these reviewers get overly critical to the point that it's just silly when it comes to JRPGs. Next up in his review, he stated the non-combat makes up the bulk of this game, and it's not wholly entertaining. There are a lot of seemingly unnecessary long conversation sequences that the player, quite frankly, will have to fight the urge to speed through. Alright, so the non-combat remark doesn't ring true first off, and the non-entertaining part could be a result of the lack of enemy variety, which I've yet to decide on, so that part could or could not be correct, I'm not sure. Then he mentions having to fight the urge to speed through the cutscenes, again going back to somebody that just wasn't going to enjoy this game to begin with. Next up, in reference to the 2D and 3D graphics, he stated the two styles don't mesh well together, but that's only the beginning of the game's visual shortcomings. I went into detail in a previous video about that. Some people love the graphics and some don't. It's a difference of opinion. He gave the game a 49 out of 100, which again, I don't score games in my own reviews, but I don't really agree with that score or even close to that. The other review was posted by GamerReview.com. This guy obviously was a lot like me and willing to give the game a chance, and he wrote a pretty spot-on review. in comparison to what I've played so far. If you're itching to read a review, I would definitely check his out. You can tell he put the time in, wasn't opinionated about the game beforehand. He pointed out its bright spots and its flaws really well. Now, I know most bigger review companies have a track record of giving JRPGs bad reviews, and I would be surprised if this one dodges that universal bullet, but it really comes down to what type of game that you personally enjoy playing. If you enjoy other JRPGs like Hyperdimension Neptunia and Mugen Souls, then you're going to be a lot more receptive and willing to overlook the minor flaws that are found in this game and most likely have a good time with it. However, if you're more in the picky crowd that's expecting the next Ni no Kuni, then you're going to pick this title apart right away before you even really get a chance to get playing into it, and you'll probably be disappointed with it. And again, I haven't made a complete judgment call on how I feel about this game just yet. I've enjoyed playing it so far, and the combat system video that I just uploaded I think explains the combat system really well and gives everyone a really close look at what's going on in that regard, and I'm enjoying that part of the game a good bit. But if the enemy variety doesn't change and it does start to feel repetitive, then I'll be sure to point that out in my own review, as that could dampen the experience some. But as of right now, I don't feel this title deserves a lot of the negative press that it's receiving. That's pretty much all I have for this video. This is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and thanks for stopping by.